Yeah, it turns out we're live. So you got your book, Rob, The Way Forward, huh?
Yeah, it sounds good, man. I think we look good, brother.
Yeah, so we wrote this book. Me and Rob, we kind of came together, and how did we start? Everybody wants to know where the book, like how we came together and to write a book.
Yeah, we're live. Jessica's yelling at me. We're live.
You guys are live.
Hey,
Yeah,
tell her she didn't have tell her she didn't have to tell me. I already know. No, so Rob, I've been getting asked this question a lot. I'm sure you have too. But like, we came together. I think we decided we were going to write the book. I think we were out in D.C. I remember we stayed at that. We were going out there. We are going to talk to a couple people we were working with, and we just kind of sit down. I remember we were eating lunch right before going.
Yeah,
to,
I think
that night, and we kind of talked about just how we wanted to write something to help people.
Yeah, I think it's about it.
So we just wanted to write the book. In this book, we just wanted to make, everything that we've done is simple, right? We just try to break, the complexity of situations down. We wanted to write it out and just put simple lessons in there from the stuff that we had learned.
Yeah, just keeping it real. That's kind of what we're trying to do, man. Just a couple of dudes just sitting around. Seriously, that's what we're doing. That's kind of it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. So I got these questions up over here, and I'm going to go through those and let's answer those. So, transitioning to civilian life, what is the most difficult experience each of you have had since getting out of the military? This is from Jason in Rockwood, Tennessee. Thank you so much for being heroes. In valor, there is hope. So, what about you, Rob? What about you? I mean, you transitioned out.
Well, I think that's kind of about it. Like, how do we get out here? And that's what we did. And just get into the real world. That's kind of what we did.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, getting out. I served. Me and Rob both. Rob, you served what? 17 years.
17 years, yeah.
Yeah, I served 4 years, and one of the biggest pieces to me as far as getting out was just understanding that it wasn't about me. That in the military you actually live in a kind of a contained environment. There's a fence around. I mean, literally, there's a fence around you. The whole ecosystem's controlled, and it's very systematic approach to go about it. And I think getting out for me was just hard of trying to figure out. Nobody's going to do it for you when you get out, right? Like nobody's going to hold your hand. Nobody's going to tell you where you need to be at, when you need to be at it. Nobody's gonna there's just no exact process to getting to where you want to be. So you just kind of have to figure it out. It's more of an individual game of life with people around you. And I think that was one of the big pieces for me was getting out and trying to understand that going back into civilian life is a lot different. I mean, all the way down to the language, right? And so what I had to do is I had to break it down into a point to where it was like, this was like the longest deployment of my life, right? Anytime we're going on deployment, what we do is we start learning about their culture, the country's culture we're going to. We start learning about, what it's like to navigate over there, how they do things, and then how can we fit in and try to do the mission that we're going to do, as well as maintaining, speaking their language and respecting them. And I think, once I figured that out of understanding that civilians didn't need to change for me, I needed to change and become a civilian. My transition got a lot easier.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When we kind of get out there and it's just get into the real world, and you kind of run into the real world, and that's what we do. And you kind of run into people. It's like, holy hell, and you run into people like that. Run into people the real world, and we kind of did the same thing. Run into people, and you kind of just do it. That's kind of what it is, and it is what it is. It's a horrible place, but we kind of run into it, and that it is that's it.
Yeah. So both of you being combat veterans, how does it hit you when sports teams kneel during the national anthem? And thank you both for your service. Veterans are simply the best. You know, I think that, for me, I I think for me, um, I think for me, like when I seen, when all this was going on and people were kneeling for the national anthem, I understand that, like, look, did it make me happy? Absolutely not. But did it get me all out of whack? No, because you know what? Like, this is I actually took this is because people like us did a good job. These are first world problems, right? Um, they're able to kneel on that flag and not get executed like a lot of countries would, like over in Iraq and countries we've gone and fought in, because they would not tolerate that. Like, they're able to kneel for that flag for whatever cause is hurting them, or whatever they felt like they should do that for, because they live in the greatest country on the face of the planet. And it didn't. Yeah, it bothered me, but it wasn't this aspect of. Um, there wasn't an aspect that I really like took it as, as it was. I mean, obviously it's disrespecting the flag, but I just took it as, hey, look, they don't see the world from my perspective. They haven't gone through our experiences, and honestly, they haven't felt the love of that flag, like I have, and they don't have the passion for the country like I do, and that's okay, and that's one thing. That's kind of what we talk about in the way forward. Not necessarily this, but like in the way forward, we talk about, um, look, just look, let people be people, right? Like, let them be people. If they're not hurting you, everybody's going through their own struggles, right? And so I just think that, for me, it wasn't this big aspect of, oh, they're bad people. My aspect is, look, I don't know what life looks like through their lens. I haven't gone through the struggles they've gone through. And they haven't seen life through my lens either. But the best thing that we can do is we all still can relate a lot more than on stuff that we can't relate on. If there's one thing y'all could change during your lifetime, what would you change? Um, I think Rob's muted. Um, what would you change? So, as far as like for me, as an individual, I just wish that, so I wouldn't change anything I've gone through. Um, I would just change, probably I would change how I handled situations, right? Like, I would change how I treated people. I would change, I just wish that, like, I would have opened myself up more to people, and took more time to focus on things. Not, I wish I hadn't have let things that didn't matter steal away my peace, and steal away the thing, take away from the times that did matter. I wish I didn't let the past. I wish I didn't let the past take over so much of the present, right? And we talk about this in the way forward, and that's kind of what the epitome of this book is that there is always a way forward, right? Like, where there's hope, there's a way forward. And when you're driving your car, people who get worried and caught up on the past and keep, letting the past take away from tomorrow. It's kind of like people driving a car. Like, imagine if you drove your car like trying to look in your rearview mirror. If you try to drive your car looking in your rearview mirror, what's going to happen? You're going to crash, right? And so I think for people, um, that's kind of like the same thing in life. Like, you're not going to get anywhere looking in your rearview mirror. And so, whatever's happened, let it go. Learn from it. Be better because of it. Every mile that you drive your car, you get better at driving your car. And so it's just like life. Stay focused on the windshield. Stay focused on going forward on what matters. And for me, I just wish I hadn't have let the past, and I hadn't have let people that didn't matter, and issues that didn't really matter. I wish I hadn't gave them more time and emotional equity, than they deserved. All right. What about you, Rob? I think Rob. I think we lost Rob. What's the inspiration behind this book, and why did you choose to write it now? Um, for me, writing this book, I I don't know. Like I think that there was this moment, and I don't know the exact moment, but everything kind of clicked. Like, I went through life and I always looked at it pretty negative, and um, I was always down about a lot of bad stuff that happened. And I think that with this book, there was a point to where I finally got to the point to where I was okay with everything, right? Like there was like this, I don't know, like, I used to carry out like I look at it as like this backpack of like all the problems and all the struggles I had gone through that it's like a backpack full of rocks. And I feel like I got to this point in life to where I kind of let those rocks off. And now I can breathe, and I it all these situations made sense, right? Like I talk about my grandpa and my dad, and I talk about the people that made me who I am, and at the times and these moments in life to where I was just where I was really down, and where I was like I messed up and I made some and you know and these lessons taught me a lot that hey, I need to stop looking and stop blaming everybody else. And so in this book, I just wanted to help people. We just wanted to come together and put these stories in here that hey, look, we're all alike. You know, we're all alike. Life's not life's hard. Life's nasty. We're all going through life together. We're all going through this crazy thing called life, but there's a lot of good. There's more good than there is bad, and I just feel like there was so many things that were coming out that around us that make us think that everything's bad, and that influence the way that we think. And so we just wanted to write a book that hopefully people could read, and at any point in life of whatever struggle they're going through, whether it's their first day of work, whether they're going through a divorce like I've gone through, whether they came back from combat and they're trying to find purpose, whether they're just someone out there who's just again like an everyday person like myself who's just trying to find purpose or trying to find this thing called purpose in life. And that you matter. Like no matter what you're doing, you're as significant as anybody else. Nobody's more needed than one another. We're all relying on each other. We all need each other to get through this crazy thing called life. And as soon as we can realize that, and as soon as we start connecting, that life gets a lot easier. And that's kind of what the inspiration behind the book was. What's the biggest thing you want your readers to take away from this book? I just want people to take away, uh, I want people to take away that there's a lot of good in this world. I want people to take away that there's like that hope's not a plan, but where there's hope, there's a way forward. And I just want people to read this book and just know that whatever they're going through, because we're all like the cool thing is you walk into a room, and I don't care how put together anybody is, everybody's going through something, right? It's kind of like everybody has, what they say, family, right? And I just want people to take away from this book that look, that yeah, life's tough. Um, Life it never goes as planned, but we get to do this. We get to do this thing called life. The sooner that we start understanding that money doesn't matter, how much money you have doesn't matter, how big your house is, how many likes you get on Instagram, those things don't matter. And we start finding fulfillment in being there for each other and understanding that relationships matter and how you treat people matter. And that's where true fulfillment comes from. That's what we wanted to get out. That's what I hope people take away from this book. I think Rob had technical issues. That's why I'm getting text right now. So I guess I'm gonna have to. I guess I'm gonna have to be on. This is gonna be the way forward, right? Advice to someone who is wanting to serve in the military right out of school. Look, go do it. Go do it. Join, right? Go join the military. Go. Look, there's nothing for me, serving and being able to wear the nation's cloth was just such an honor. To be able to say that I got to serve the United States of America and to be able to represent the United States of America across the globe is just such an honor. Uh, I'll tell you, just being able to have, obviously I was a Marine, so I had the EGA on my left breast pocket, and to be able to go into countries and have that American flag on me, and people know, look, America's the beacon of hope across the globe. When we show up, and it's not trying to be arrogant. A lot of people take it as arrogant or whatever. It's not. Like, it's true. Where America is, the world is safer. Where the world is better. And just being able to be part of that, to be able to be part of and represent America is just such a cool thing to do. So if you want to go and do what you want to do, right? Let's see. Thank you both. Thank you both for your service. Let's see. Thank you both for your service. How do you stay mentally tough? Uh, so I think first off, like, being mentally tough is it's kind of like working out, you know. It's kind of like, I think one thing we can all relate to is breaking up in a relationship, right? Or getting hurt by a friend. The first one just feels like you're gonna die from, right? Uh, but after that, I'm not saying they never get easier, because when you care about people or something, like, you care about people, or you invest time, or you had this expectation of how this was going to turn out, it never gets easier to get let down, but you get tougher, right? And I always use the analogy of pull-ups. Is, like, the first time you ever do a pull-ups suck. I hate pull-ups. I don't like any pull-ups. And so the first time you go and you do a pull-up, maybe you can't get one, or maybe you can only get one. But if you show up every day and you do pull-ups, after a while, you'll be doing 20 pull-ups. Now, you might have not gotten any lighter, and gravity didn't stop pulling down on you any less. And every pull-up sucks just as much, but you just got stronger. And it's the same thing with life. Like, to get mentally tough, you have to get disciplined. You have to, every situation you go through, not dwell on it and beat yourself up on it, but really have a hard, serious look at yourself on how you got there and what you could maybe have done different. You have done different on the way to get there. And that's, we talk about that in the way forward, as far as, like, a big aspect for me being mentally tough is by my circle around me. I talk about my circle in this book, and how important that is, of having a circle that's stronger than you, that doesn't, that knows how to how to build you up, right? And I'm not talking about build you up as far as like, oh, like supporting, I call it your bullshit, right? Like, but they build you up by by holding you accountable. They don't, like, when you're like, oh, I feel so bad. I talk about Tim Kennedy in here. Tim Kennedy is just a great friend of mine, a dude that has been there in some of the hardest times of my life. And I tell us one story where I walk into this gym, and I was working out with Tim, and kind of that was my, during this hard time in my life, everything in my life was just going just haywire. And going to this gym and working out with Tim and Juan and Shane and Eric, and I was going in, and Tim, I went into him one day and I said, I'm just fat. I'm just fat. And I was probably looking for him to say, like, oh man, no, you're not. You know what I mean? Like, just, we all do that. We all do that sometimes, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. And Tim looked back at me and goes, hey, check it out. Like, stopped in the middle of his workout. Hey, check it out. Like, people know you as a warrior, and you need to look like one. So remember that. And it was like, did it feel good? Absolutely not. But is it what I needed to hear? And yeah, it is. So, him building me up like that, and him, giving me that real raw answer did more for me than that instant gratification, feel good answer, right? It stuck with me still today. It stuck with me so much that I'm putting it in a book, because I still think about that moment. And so that's what, staying mentally tough is not only, you putting in the work yourself, but also surrounding yourself with people who are going to put in work with you. Dakota, how and when did you become obsessed with skydiving? This is Zach from California. Sorry, I don't know if I'm doing this right, but tips or tricks for someone's first time. So I love skydiving. I wish Rob was on here. He has an awesome skydiving story, and he's done a ton of it. But I just started skydiving. A friend asked me one time, if, hey, you want to come out and get your license? I'm like, absolutely. I hate heights. Let me tell you, I hate heights. And I went out there, started jumping. And my tip for you would be is just go out there and take it serious. Like, first off, skydiving is no joke. So I don't skydive unless I am fully, unless my mind is right, unless I'm going to fully focus on it. It's not something to just, swing out there and go, hey, let me just knock out one jump every 6 months. Like, it's a serious business. And so, but it's so rewarding. It's so empowering to just come out that door and just to be able to overcome your fear and to be able to have this ability to drop from 14,000 feet, open your parachute, and land safely. It's such a freeing moment, and so I love it. I love it. It's such an awesome thing, awesome skill to do. So yeah, if you do, go find a drop zone near you. Some of the coolest people that ever exist are at drop zones, and go out there. Like, they love the skydiving community loves to help people, and they love to get people in it. So yeah, go out there, just go to a local drop zone. After both serving our country, what's the experience that stands out to you both the most? I don't know. I think this is Chad from North Dakota. What stands out to me the most? I don't know. I don't know. I think being a Marine, it was a really cool part of my life. But I think being a Marine, I was fortunate that it put me through these situations that kind of, you know, there were a lot of hard situations that kind of broke me down. And I think that after we get, look, the only way we connect to people is by being vulnerable. And by being vulnerable, you have to be strong, right? Some people think that, when you talk about your feelings or you open up or all these things to other people, that it's a weakness. And it's not. It's actually the people who can love and who can open their heart up the most are literally the strongest people on the face of the planet, because they do this. And it's like with me, like I come in and I'm going to try to give every ounce of empathy to somebody. I'm going to try to open my heart up and give my best. And I'm going to try to let them in, because I've had to decide that, look, I've gone through so much and I've made it through it on the other end, that I know that nothing's going to stop me, right? Nothing anyone can do to me is ever going to stop me. There's always going to be a way forward. There's always hope. And so I think that, for me, I think that serving the country and the experiences that it gave me, it showed me that, look, like what the difference between inconveniences and problems are, and being able to properly put things that happen to us or things that we're part of into that right category, and not give them more than what, more time or emotional equity than they deserve, then that's what I do. And so I think that's what kind of does that. I mean, I don't know of a single experience. I mean, I've had so many cool experiences. I've got to go across the globe and meet so many cool people in different countries, and I've got to do so much cool stuff that I don't know one that stands out over the other. I mean, they were all awesome. What causes are important to us both? Well, Rob ain't gonna answer, Sandra, but what cause is important? I mean, I just think doing good for others, right? Like, one call, that's a cause that, just trying to do what you can to eliminate people's suffering, right? I can't stand when people are hurting. I'm a firefighter, and I show up on these calls, and yeah, some of these calls that I go on, it doesn't seem significant to me, but to them, it is significant. and trying to look at an aspect from another person's view, or trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes of what life is or what their life is, and understand their reality, when you're reacting, or whether, whatever you're doing is, I think it's something, that's I don't know if this is a cause you're talking about. That's a cause that I believe is something it should be important to everyone. Um, Trying to understand, like, we're so quick to judge, right? We're so quick to judge people by their actions in that moment in time. Like, when you hear someone say something in that moment, and that's what, you never understand where they're coming from, the context, what their day was like. You don't know where they live. I mean, it's just like, it's so, we're so quick to judge people without judging them with all the information. So, like, that's a cause, like taking care of each other, helping people out, doing what you can to make the world a better place is a cause that's really important to me. How can civilians best support our military? Number one, vote. Number one, vote. Watch who you vote for, right? Educate yourself. Understand that, like, who our leaders are of this, in the United States. The leaders of the United States are the leaders of the world. And so I'd say voting. And then probably the other biggest thing to me is doing good with your freedom, right? A lot of people, I mean, not just myself, but so many people have given up their tomorrows for our todays. And to go out every day and take full advantage of that day, every moment that we have, and that we get to live in this great country. I mean, imagine being a Ukrainian right now. Imagine being one of them. We look around the globe, and everybody always talks about, oh, I'm going to leave the country, or America's this, America's that. Well, I don't see anybody leaving. And I think that the best way you can support our military is by going out and making the most of your freedom, and by going out and just living a life that's worthy of these service members' sacrifices that have made so that we can have this life. Hudson from Ohio. Tips to achieve long-term goals. Stay consistent. Long-term goals are a lot harder to achieve than short-term goals, right? Because the monotony of the process is just staying disciplined in that process. The longer the long-term goal is, the harder it is to see, and the harder it is to believe sometimes, and the more factors of life that are always challenging how dedicated you are to that goal, right? So I would say, one of the tips to achieving a long-term goal would be setting short-term goals that are going to get you there, right? Milestones, measurables. And then I would say staying disciplined, right? So staying disciplined, always remembering why you're doing it. Like, know your why. Write it down. If you can't write down your why, then you're never going to be able to do your what. And so that's it. So, right, so, like, write down your why, so you can get to your what. Set up short-term goals, mile markers, all the way up to this long-term goal. Celebrate your successes on the way there, and learn from your failures all the way there, and just understand and trust and enjoy the process, right? Like, how many times, think about this, how many times do we want to do something, or, like, okay, we want to save up for a new car, right? And so what we do is, every day we go to work, and so we have to make these micro decisions all the way, as far as, like, well, where am I going to spend my money? And you save that money, and you just watch that bank account, and it's just like, you kind of, you're just, all you're excited about is just getting that new car. And when you get there and you buy that new car and you drive it for a week, then you're like, well, what's next, right? So it's always going to be, you're always going to be that factor. So what you have to do is, you got to find a way to enjoy the process, enjoy the successes of your discipline of doing what you say you're going to do, right? It's all habitual. We talk about that, and the way forward is everything in life is habitual. So if you can't do it when you don't need to, you're not going to be able to do it when you do need to, right? And so, celebrate that. trust the process and enjoy the process, because that's where the most of your time is in that process. And if you can't get to where you love the process, then you're only looking at the end goal. Then life is a lot tougher, and achieving those goals are tougher. Stacy from Utah. Thoughts? I've got to ask this question on literally every interview I've done. Thoughts on everything going on in the world right now? I want to start off with that. As simple as every news cycle is trying to make it, as simple as every expert is trying to make this, everybody's trying to make this situation into a soundbite that they can get headlines on. And let me tell you something. It is not that simple. It is not simple. It's a complex situation. And it's a very dangerous situation. And the fact is that that there's a lot of moving parts to this. And I always get worried when I start hearing people, and I see this a lot. People are like, "Oh, well, Putin thought this," or when we start trying to figure out what people are thinking, like that's when you stop listening to somebody, right? When they start trying to say that they can predict what's in someone's head. So I would just say, look, I feel for the people of Ukraine, not their government. I don't feel for their government. I feel for the innocent civilians of Ukraine. I feel for them, and I feel that they're caught in the crossfire of this political agenda from both sides, right? And that's the unfortunate part. That's where I get frustrated with our leaders, the leaders across the globe, is just how many times that their individual politics and policies get in the way of what's best for the everyday person. And so that's my thoughts on it. It's devastating seeing that not only the people who are being injured or killed or losing their homes or losing their where they live, but just the people who are having to live in the fear of all that. It's just terrible. Thomas from Alabama. Is there something or someone at a young age inspired or influenced you to go in the military? Not for me. For me, it was I joined the military off of a dare, kind of like someone told me I would never make it in the Marine Corps, and so I joined just to prove them wrong. But my grandfather was a Marine, and just how he carried himself was always admirable. Like the success that he had, and who he was, and his heart, and his his demeanor, and I talk about in the book The Way Forward. I tell the story about the time that him and my grandma were married for, I think, almost 60 some years. And, his love that he had for my grandma, the relationship that they had, it wasn't always the best. It wasn't always perfect. But just the pure fight that they had for each other, and the fight not only for each other, but the fight that they had, as far as, staying married, and the fight that they had for building a family and for doing better. And it's just, and then all the way down to the end, my grandfather just showed so much dignity. He left every room with dignity. And so all the way down to the day he died. And I talk about that story. I think it's in the second chapter. Let me see here. I think it's in the second chapter of the book that I talk about that. Know your rock from your axe. So I'd be on page 39. But definitely, chapter 2 was just something that my grandpa and my dad. You talk about my dad was just, I talk about my dad a lot in here. And there's one part of it I talk about the 3 mics, and and my dad, we call him Big Mike, and he's just, they've just been incredible influences on me my whole life. Who came up with the idea for the book? That was me and Rob Neal. I talked about a little bit earlier, so I'm gonna skip over that one. And then this question is both for Dakota and Rob. I work for Atlantic Signal in Topeka. We provided communication equipment for the SEALs team on that mission. I've always thought it was so cool to have a minor connection to history. My question is, have you ever felt betrayed by your country? There's a lot of uproar over the VA not doing their part to help welcome back our servicemen and women. Did either of you have some bitter feelings when you come back readjusting to civilian life? So I'll answer your first one. Have you ever felt betrayed by your country? I mean, I think that's something that we all have felt, right? But again, like, I talk a lot about looking in the mirror and self-awareness. Is that an expectation we set, or is that an expectation that the government set, right? At the end of the day, I try to live a life where you know, I don't I don't set others' expectations. I just let them show me what they're doing, right? Um, so I think that that's one key piece to not being let down by people is, hey, people like they're gonna do what they're gonna do. They don't have to do what's your expectation. I hate the word owed, right? Like when you say the word, well, other than the banks, like we owe banks, right? But or if you owe someone money that you borrowed, then that's what you owe. But but the world doesn't owe us anything. We get to do this. We get to wake up every single day and live in this great country. We get to make the best of every situation, and we can do that. We have that power. That there's so much power in the choice. But have I ever felt betrayed by my country? Yeah, I mean, I think we all have. I think it's a normal feeling. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to hate my country, right? My country did my country's also gave me so much, right? It gives me a beautiful place to like raise my family. My daughters they're safe. They're healthy. We have arguably the best medical care in the world. So yeah, I mean, there are aspects of it that definitely need work, but there's just still more good than there is bad. And why choose to focus on the bad? Um, there's a lot of uproar over the VA. I'm reading. Sorry, I'm reading the rest of Alan's question. There's a lot of uproar over the VA. Yeah, I mean, look, the VA is broke, right? Look, the VA is broke. The VA is made up. Like the people who work for the VA, there's a lot of great people. There's a lot of great nurses and doctors and people who try to help and who work for the VA and who believe in helping others. But the vehicle, the system, the vehicle of the VA is broken, and I talk about that very bluntly in the way forward. There's a piece of in the section. I don't know which chapter it's in, but I talk about this meeting that I went into at the Capitol in DC that and it just showed how far off they were. But all this, like I want to say, all this is happening this way because there's no accountability. There's no accountability. But to have accountability, you have to have conflict. But it's kind of like a three-legged stool. With accountability, conflict, and grace. When you hold someone accountable, you have to let them apologize and you have to let them fix it to do better, right? You can't hold them like that one moment. We all have moments in our life that if we were judged on that one, if our entire life was judged on that one moment, I mean, nobody would be around us. We would all be shitty people. But it's about learning from that. And I think that's something this country has lost so much of is this grace or empathy or whatever you want to call it, this chance to be sorry, this chance to not be defined by the worst moment or one moment of their life. Like, look, your life's about an average of 20,000 days. I mean, imagine if you think about the worst moment of your time or the time that you've done something that definitely you're not proud of. Imagine if you were judged just on that one moment or that one thing that you said in that heat of the moment. We're all fortunate in life is so forgiving that's something we all have to remember is that we've all been forgiven, right? We've all been given second, third, fourth, fifth chance. So as long as you're learning from it, it's always about getting better. So yeah, it's back to the VA. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't take a dog that I didn't like that was sick to the VA. Did either of you come back having bitter feelings when adjusting to civilian life? I did. I got out and I had this entitlement attitude. I'm not gonna lie. I got out and I was like, I served this country. This country owes me. That whole typical that sometimes we all get caught in. And when I did that, there was nothing good coming from that. There was nothing positive that came from that. And honestly, I had no control. It was the least amount of control I ever had in my life. And when I finally looked in the mirror, and I talk about that in the book, The Way Forward, I talk about that a lot in there, is like at the point that I looked in the mirror and said, everything starts and ends with me, right? I can't control what happens to me, but what I can do is I can control how I see it. I can control how I think about it, and I can control what I choose to focus on, and I can control I can control my reaction to it, right? And so for me, that's what I find peace and I find peace in, right? Is knowing that no matter what life throws at me, no matter what anyone throws at me, um, I've got through it to this point. I'm going to continue to get through it. And I love to talk about this in the book. Is look, where there's fear and hate, there's someone that has some outside idea that has put that 99% of it, right? I mean, think about the things that you're scared of. Think about the things that are holding you back in life from doing what you want to do, or for living a life that's worthy of living, or that fulfilling life for you. Maybe you're at that job that you don't like. Maybe you're at that job that that is just like you're miserable going to. What if, like, why don't you take that chance to find another job, right? You found that job, so why couldn't you find another one? It's just all these things that are holding people back and making them miserable in life. They're not real. There's so many of unreal these unreal fears that dictate our entire life. And so I think that, like, in the book, that what we try to do is we try to show you that, look, no matter what you go through, you're going to be able to get through it. There's always a way forward. And whether it's look whether you're in a bad relationship, or whether you're in a bad job, or whether you don't you're not happy with where you're at in life, you have the power to fix that. That's the coolest thing about life is so forgiving. There's only a few things you can do in life that will forever decide, if you can come back from it or not. And you know what the best thing is in America, I'll say this, in America, America loves the comeback story, right? Like, this place is built on immigrants. And it's the freest country built on immigrants, people from all over. And, they love the comebacks. It's the only country on the face of the planet that you can literally go from having nothing to being the president of the United States in one generation. It's the only country in the planet that swears allegiance to a piece of paper and not a human being, right? So these ideas that are put in our head about fear and about hate, nobody was born with hate. And these are all ideas that were put onto us because that's what makes people money. And just remembering that is just a huge aspect to wonder what matters and what doesn't. All right, that was all the questions. I think I'm done. Let me see. Let me see if I'm done. Let me ask them. I think I am. I really appreciate you all getting on here and come and purchasing the book. I hope you guys enjoy it. Sorry, Rob had some technical issues. You would think it would be the Marine, but obviously, Navy SEALs, they have a hard time with technology because they're used to having so many people just do it for them, right? So